Hey guys, we've made it to November, which means it is time to plant out some tulips. For anyone that doesn't know, my name is Peggy and I am growing a cut flower garden here on my allotment in Kanagawa Prefecture, Japan, which is just south of Tokyo in USDA Zone 9B. Thanks for checking out my channel. So I have grown tulips in my garden since I started the garden and I really like them. When flower farmers grow tulips, they tend to grow them really close together, and when they harvest them, they pull up the whole plant including the bulb. They cut it right at the tip of the bulb and throw the bulb away to compost. If you do not leave 2 leaves on your bulb, you're not going to get a new flower next year. It really needs those leaves to collect all the sunlight and the energy to put back into the bulb so that it'll grow again next year. They do that so they get the really nice long stems, but I don't need that because I'm just, arranging for myself at home. And bulbs here are really expensive. I don't want to have to be buying new ones every year. So I had been regrowing every year from the same bulbs. I'd buy a few extra ones, but my problem with this was that I was still discovering what I liked. Now I had a really deep purple one, which I absolutely loved, and then I had one that I called a Peggy Wonder that I found last year. Obviously my name's Peggy, I had to buy it. So I got that, but it was a very short tulip. Really short. But it was like 4 tulip heads to 1 stem, which I've never seen. So I really liked that as well. I was just having to make much shorter arrangements for it or just use it in bud vases. There were a few others I had some yellows, I had some pinks that were pretty, but they weren't really my style. So when I dug up all of the tulips to moved to the new allotment, I'd lost a lot. Now a lot of them had been eaten. I was finding a lot of the empty shells, the kind of shell where the bulb had been, but there was nothing inside it. So a lot of them had rotted away, a lot of them had been eaten. So I ended up with this big mix-up of bulbs, nowhere near as many as I had in the garden. Some are pretty big and healthy looking, others are actually possibly a gladiola. I keep finding glads. Every time I dig something I find more glads. But some of them are much smaller, so I'm not sure what types these are, what colour they are, but I'm going to put all of these in the ground. But because this was a bit of a mix and I really wasn't sure what I was going to get, I went out and I bought some new ones. So I found this mix at Costco, nice and cheap, 25. They're the frilly kind of peony ones that I like, and a mix of colours. And I thought, yeah, okay, I'll get these just to make sure that I have a lot of tulips to be making arrangement with. My tulips tend to come through at a time when I don't have a lot to go with them. My ranunculus and anemone are generally dying off, my daffodil have all gone, and the summer flowers haven't come in yet. So I need to have a lot of them to be able to make something that looks good. I also found these amazing black ones. Now these are just the kind of typical tulip shape, which I don't really go for, but because these were so black and very cool, I had to get them. So I have these to go in as well. The other ones have kind of surprised me. So I kind of look every time I go into garden centres to see if there's anything that I like, anything that catches my eye, and I'm always trying to grow things that I haven't grown before to see if I like them and if I want them in the garden. And this time I went again for kind of a more basic tulip shape, but in these really cool colours, this kind of stripy colour. And then I found other ones that are kind of the more frilly parrot shaped tulip, but again, same colours. And I think that these mixed together will look really nice. Now I must have forgotten that I bought these because I then went online and bought these, which are basically the same, except this seems to have some kind of purple stripy ones as well as the yellow and red stripy ones. So I have lots of stripes and lots of yellows and lots of colours that I wouldn't usually go for, but I'm going to grow them and see if I like them. And kind of continuing the stripy theme, I also got these, which I can't decide if I really like or I really hate. So it's going to be a case of wait and see when they grow. And again, I got the kind of peony type, which I like, with the lots of petals. And then I got this, which is more of the kind of frilly parrot type, which looks really cool. So yeah, it seems to be a lot, it's like blood speckled, isn't it? A lot of stripy, variated varieties that I've got, which isn't usually what I go for, but let's get them in, see what they look like in real life and see if I like them. Okay, so I'm here in the end row of the allotment. Now this is where I have my dill and my fennel that I planted a couple of weeks ago, and they've started to come up and are looking great. And then there's this kind of weedy patch where I put my delphinium, and that is because I don't really know what a delphinium sprout looks like, and I'm scared to pull it out in case I'm pulling out flowers and not weeds. So I'm going to give that a little bit more time to see what becomes established there. But this is where I'm going to put my tulips. Now this is also where I planted all of my gladiola bulbs. Now last year I planted my gladiola in with my poppy, thinking that my poppy would come up really early, and as they started to die back the gladiola would come up, and that's because I'd grown previously the California jelly bean type of poppy, which didn't grow more than about 30 centimeters, and because gladiola are so big and tall I thought that would be a good pairing, but it didn't work because I planted different poppy and they got massive, huge and bushy, and they completely shaded out the gladiola, and then when the gladiola came up they were getting knocked down by the poppy, and so they were just a bit of a mess really. So I've decided that this year I would put my tulip and my gladiola together. They both come up in pretty straight, not so bushy kind of arrangements, and they should hopefully, just as the tulip are starting to die back, is when the gladiola will really put their height on. So I'm kind of hoping that that means that from spring through to kind of mid to late summer this bed will be completely full, and that will be less weed pressure as well. The only problem is when I moved from my old allotment to this one and I dug up all the gladiola bulbs, my kids helped me plant the bulbs, and so they are in here completely randomly, not in straight lines, I'm not really sure where. So I'm going to attempt to put my tulips in lines here, but I might have to be moving gladiola bulbs out of the way as I do that. Now I'm planning on putting 10 bulbs per line, which again isn't very much. If you see actual flower farmers do this, they plant these like eggs in a carton. They're literally going to put them like this far apart. I'm not. 10 bulbs is going to give me enough space to be able to leave these in the ground and to let them divide and hopefully come back next year big and strong as well. So that is my plan. Let's get planting. Let's grab a shovel, you can come help.
Hey!
So this line here, I put this down to remind myself where I started planting my delphinium. So from there down is where I planted my delphinium, which means from this line up I can plant my tulip. Okay, you jump over that side.
But this side is the
Gladiola. Okay, so that is all of my new bulbs in. Now I'm going to go ahead and plant these ones. I am going to see which bulbs kind of look alike and put them in a row together, but I think it's just going to end up being a big mismatch of whatever I can get in the ground. It may be November, but I'm Scottish and it's still really, really hot, so I have my sun hat on. But that is all of the tulips in this space, which is a lot of tulips for about 1 meter 20 centimeters, 1 meter by about 120 centimeters I reckon. So I have still packed them in quite tight, but I think that should be okay. Let's wait and see. Now I didn't hit that many gladiola bulbs and I know there's a lot in there, so it's going to be interesting to see where they all come up. But that is all of the tulips in the ground. So now I've got my tulips, my delphinium, my dill and my fennel, and that is all that's going in this row until spring, where I'll plant up the rest of my hardy annuals come spring at the end of here. So that is done. All that's left to do now is the weeding, which I am getting done with help from my field crew here. I am now hiding in the shade. So with that all in, I'm really excited to see all of the new varieties that I've going in, what they're like, whether I like them. I'm really not sure if I'm going to like this stripy one. I'm not sure how well they're going to be easy to pair with what else I have in the garden, or if the colours are going to be just quite strange and hard to match with other things. I'm not sure, but I'm really excited to see them. I really want to know if the kind of more common tulip shape is actually okay, if it's in an interesting colour. So I have the striped ones of those and I have the really dark black ones of those. I'm also interested to see which ones of my bulbs from the last allotment have actually survived. I'm really hoping it's the dark purple ones, but it's going to be interesting to see which of those have actually survived and are going to come back for me next year. But for me, that is all the tulips in. great. Let me know what's going on in your garden. Have you got your tulips in? Are you growing any of the same variety? Are there any of these that you like, dislike, or any growing tips you have for me are always greatly appreciated. If you want to see what I do with all of my cut flowers, you can check out my Instagram, which is From the Witch's Garden. There's a link to that below, and you'll be able to see what I did with all of my tulips from last year. If you want to follow along and see how these do, then please remember to hit the subscribe button. And that is all from me this week. I will see you guys next week. Bye!